What's going on, YouTube? So as I put in my community post, life has been busy. I got married at the end of July, and me and my wife just got back from our week-long honeymoon in St. Lucia. We did a number of excursions such as horseback riding on the beach, snorkeling, a private tour of the island, river rafting, and a rum factory and tasting tour, which was my personal favorite. Excuse the cell phone quality pictures and videos, but I thought this would be a great time to show you guys what I experienced. Going to St. Lucia was only my second time ever leaving the country. The first was going to Canada, which living in Metro Detroit is only about 30 to 45 minutes away. I did bring back some goodies such as various knickknacks and some chocolate rum balls to enjoy after dinner. Unfortunately, I couldn't bring back the rum or the hot sauce. I had to get a new phone after getting back, and I did back up plenty of photos, and I know I missed some, but let's just go ahead and hop into this run. So in the last video, we did X's box art legendary Xerneas, and today we're going to be doing Y's box art legendary Yveltal. So in terms of stats, these two Pokemon have the exact same base stat total and stat distribution. And just like Xerneas, Yveltal has some problems in the early game, being that our only starting attacking move is Razor Wind. While Xerneas started with Takedown, it would have been nice to have that with Yveltal, considering that we also start with Roost. And just like with Xerneas, we're going to be taking a lot of optional battles in the early game to reach level 10 so that we can get something that isn't a garbage move for the early game, being Air Slash. And to pull up Yveltal's level up moves and TMs, we're going to have something for Grant as well. We can go with Snarl or our signature move Oblivion Wing. But like with Xerneas, our experience works out great to where by the time we take on Viola, we're level 10 with Air Slash. And Air Slash makes this one a one-shot sweep. On Route 4, I'm going to pick up some optional battles here, but the bulk of them are going to come on Route 5. And I'll elaborate more on that once we get to that part. We will be getting the TM for return at the end of Route 4, but it's not going to see much use in this run. Once we meet Professor Sycamore in Lumio City though, after defeating him, I opt to take Turtwig, which I then turn into Squirtle thanks to the help of PK Hex. So Route 5 is where I pick up quite a few optional battles, partly because I'm going to pick up the TM for Hone Claws. I thought Hone Claws combined with Shadow Claw, which we can get in Glittering Cave after Amberette Town, would be the way to handle Grant. But you'll see that I come up with something different, something that I completely overlooked, just from really overlooking Yveltal's learn set. And instead of watching me butcher grinding on this skating rail or my A1 routing and backtracking of battling trainers, let's just pick this up in Camphirier Town. PP restoring items are going to come in handy when we get to the league later on. We get our Cherry Berry from this guy and then head to Parfum Palace where we pick up the usual items. We can wake up Snorlax and make our way towards Amberette Town. I do the normal errands like getting Rock Smash, talking to the scientist about the fossils, and heading to Glittering Cave where I'm going to pick up the TM for Shadow Claw. Of course, I have to deal with Team Flare at the end of the cave, who isn't a challenge just yet, and I take the Jaw Fossil. As I continue my training on the beach just south of Salage City, Yveltal is around level 21, and we still have 5 more levels to go before we can get Oblivion Wing. Before heading to Route 10 to continue training though, I'm gonna stop by the hotel in Salage City to get the TM for Rest. I really thought I was going to need this move when I faced Grant, but there's another move I have that's actually better than Rest. Don't tell Scott that though. At this point in the run, I've got 2 rare candies that I've picked up, so if I get to level 24, I can pop them to easily get Oblivion Wing and avoid training in Grant's gym if I desire. But of course I don't do the logical thing and use my rare candies. Oh no. I decide to fight 3 trainers in Grant's gym. Thankfully I don't get any resets. And after reaching level 25, I pop a rare candy and teach Oblivion Wing in the place of Shadow Claw. I'm now ready to take on the Rock-type gym leader Grant, and I'm already having flashbacks to Talonflame. And for full transparency, this was my second battle against Grant. I tried once without Oblivion Wing, and yeah, it didn't really go well. And to make matters even worse, when I battled Hiker Bernard, his Nose Pass used Thunder Wave, which burned up my Cherry Berry. The little bit of silver lining here is that Snarl was a 2-shot on Amora, and thank God for Grant's AI using Rock Tomb as a speed control attack, and thank God for Luck not getting caught in Parahacks and Oblivion Wing restoring HP. Could that battle have gone a lot better and a lot easier and probably completed a lot sooner? The answer, yes, but lesson learned, we're going to move on. There's one last TM I want to pick up before leaving Solage City, and that's the TM for Aerial Ace. Just so we have some better PP management once we reach Shalor City and Karina's gym. Which, speaking of Karina, her Lucarios are no problem in the battle in Geosenge Town. Oblivion Wing is able to 2-shot both of them as I take back minimal damage. Which, to get off topic as well, I was talking with some people about a possible minimum battles run in X and Y. Do you think it's possible? Is it something you'd be interested in watching? Let me know. I feel like it would be Mega Lucario goes Burr by the time you get it though. The 3 mandatory trainers in Reflection Cave are no challenge, and now we can head straight to the Tower of Mastery once we reach Shalor City, where we have our first rival battle against Callum. One thing I will say about the box art legendaries is that it's hard to pick a starter for the rival to go with. While Yveltal's typing is neutral against Greninja, and it does get Ice Beam eventually, its pathetic defense doesn't really make too much of a challenge for Yveltal later on. But for the here and now, what surprised me about this battle is that Snarl doesn't one-shot the Meowstic. It sets up Light Screen, so all of my attacks are going to do less damage, at least my good attacks. Oblivion Wing is a 3-shot on Absol, and even if Slash had crit, the fact that Oblivion Wing restores 75% of the damage dealt, we would have been fine. The light screen wears off as Frogadier comes out, and Oblivion Wing is a 2-shot on it as well. So now we can head to Karina's gym, and thank God I picked up Aerial Ace, because not only does it 1 or 2-shot all of her trainers' Pokemon, but having 20 PP also makes it to where I don't have to go back to the Pokemon Center and heal PP for Oblivion Wing and waste time. And speaking of wasting time, this battle against Karina is a huge waste of time. At least of my time. I could have been doing better things. But it's 3 up, 3 down, and 3 badges in hand. We get Surf from our rival as we leave town, and then I'm going to head to Route 12, avoiding all optional battles. Of course, I'm going to pick up the leftovers while I'm here, and I'm going to pay a visit to the TM Quiz Girl in Comarine City to get the TM for Acrobatics. I get the HM for Fly from the professor as I take the train into town, and as I approach the Comarine City gym, I'm challenged by Callum. The only difference from this battle and the last battle is that I've replaced Aerial Ace with Acrobatics. And having an attack that doubles in base power to 110 and then shoots up to 165 with stab, it makes for a one-shot sweep. And this will be a bit of a surprise, Ramos was not a one-shot sweep. Yes, Jumpluff and Weepinbell went down in one hit, but Go-Go actually took a few and dished some out. And recording this voiceover, I actually looked up Go-Go's stats, and now I really want to do a run with this thing. 100 base attack and 97 special attack, decent special defense, good HP, but terrible speed at base 68. With Ramos out of the way, we can make our way to the Kalos power plant, and thanks to the power of video editing, you won't have to see any of the overworld encounters that I get, nor will you have to see any of these battles in the power plant. This section always reminds me of like the Lake of Rage section in Pokemon Crystal. And Lysander's Labs is like the radio tower takeover. I make my way through the grunts, and then make quick work of both the admin and Aliana at the end of the power plant. I can then make my way to Lumio City where I expect Yveltal to have some problems, considering that Clement is the electric type gym leader. Yveltal doesn't have any problem with his trainers in the gym, especially Ace Trainer Rico, who gave me fits with Talonflame, and we're starting to get close to that sweet level of level 44, where we can finally upgrade Snarl to Dark Pulse. And right after Clement, there's another gym leader that might give us a little bit of trouble in Valerie, the Fairy type specialist. Clement, who I thought would be a problem though, was actually no problem for Yveltal at all, thanks to its high special attack and defense stats. Legendary Pokemon for ya. I wasn't quite sure whether to use Snarl or Acrobatics on the Emolga. Snarl probably would have one-shot it, but Acrobatics does well over 2/3. It just goes for Volt Switch like it always does. Out comes the Magneton. It's always going to set up electric terrain, and I can take advantage of Clement's AI. Whenever we knock the Magneton into red health, Clement will heal it with a Hyper Potion, and we can use this to stall out the electric terrain. I also switched to Roost in order to stall out the electric terrain, because I wasn't sure how much a Thunderbolt from Heliolisk would do. Roost also gets rid of your flying type for the turn that you use it, which is very handy. Snarl doesn't one-shot the Heliolisk, but it nearly knocks me out thanks to a critical hit from Thunderbolt. Thankfully, Yveltal outspeeds Heliolisk and Emolga, and neither have quick attack, so Yveltal is able to get through this one barely on its first try. We can make our way to Route 14, where we have another rival battle against Callum. And this one just goes a little longer because of some crappy luck in the beginning. While Meowstic does hit me with Fake Out, I miss a Snarl right after, and it sets up Light Screen. And perhaps I should have just went for Acrobatics on it like I did against the Absol and Greninja, because 165 base power probably would have one-shot that thing. We're going to jump straight to Laver City and our battle against the gym leader Valerie. And I play this first battle really stupidly. Spoilers, I lose this one. Against the Mawile, I'm just spamming Snarl, when I really should have been using Oblivion Wing. The only good thing about the lengthy battle against Mawile is that Valerie has burned all of her Hyper Potions on it, but I still have to deal with Mr. Mime and Sylveon. The next mistake I make is not going for Acrobatics on Mr. Mime and instead going for Oblivion Wing to try to recoup some HP. It's then able to set up Light Screen, tank my next attack, and hit me with a Dazzling Gleam before I'm able to knock it out. Last is Sylveon, and while Acrobatics does huge damage, Dazzling Gleam also does huge damage to me, and it's able to finish me with Quick Attack on the next turn. So knowing what I know now, I open up the second battle by going for Oblivion Wing, as Mawile just keeps retaliating with Crunch. After Valerie uses a Hyper Potion, I decide to switch to Acrobatics, which two-shots it. Mr. Mime goes down in one Acrobatics, and Sylveon decides instead of attacking me, it's just going to harshly lower my attack, so I switch to Oblivion Wing and finish it off. Next up is the Pokeball Factory, and I decide to pick up a few optional battles against the Team Flare grunts here. The reason being is that we're close to level 44 and close to learning Dark Pulse. I debated using my rare candies just to get it quicker, but we were halfway to level 43, so I decided against it. And I actually end up hitting level 44 at the end of the double battle with Callum against Celosia and Byrony. I get the Master Ball as a reward, and on Route 15, I pick up this PP Up, which is going to go into Oblivion Wing immediately, along with the rare candy further to the south. Next up is Frost Cavern, and other than running into an accidental optional trainer, nothing really interesting happens here. Although that extra trainer does give Yveltal a bit of a challenge. Let's jump ahead to Anastar City, where the first two things I do before taking on our rival Callum are picking up the TM for Focus Blast along with Hidden Power. Before I started this playthrough, I thought that Hidden Power Steel would be the way to go on Yveltal, but by the time you actually get the TM for it, the only problematic fairy types you'll have to deal with are Diantha's Gardevoir and Wickstrom's Klefki, which we're going to have much better moves by the time we face both of them. And speaking of having a good moveset, the one-shot sweep on Callum's team continues. Dark Pulse and Acrobatics are just too much for him. One of these days, I'll switch the rival to Serena, maybe in the next video. But for now, we can jump straight into the battle with Olympia. And seeing that she is the Psychic type gym leader and we are a legendary Dark type, I really don't need to narrate this battle. Press A on Dark Pulse 3 times and you win. Of course, after we defeat Olympia and get outside, we get that hologram from Lysander, and it's that time in the run. The Rocket take, Lysander's Labs. And none of the 3 mandatory battles against Lysander are much of a challenge. Especially the final one when I add Focus Blast to my moveset. While I can't really one-shot his middle party Pokemon like his Gyarados, his Murkrow, which eventually becomes a Honchkrow, or the Pyroar, none of them can really do much to me either. And had I had Focus Blast for all 3 of these battles, they would have went a lot quicker and probably a lot easier, just because I would have something that deals super effective damage to the Pyroar, which, by the way, the next Kalos run is going to be Pyroar to celebrate football season starting up again, and hopefully my Detroit Lions make some more noise this season. And let me know who your team is in the comments as well, along with a season prediction for your team. And yeah, these battles against Lysander went pretty quickly, and I really don't want to tell you about his ambitions, so let's listen to some elevator music and cutscenes. Alright, now that the whole Lysander's Lab section is over with, we can head to Corway Town via Route 18. I thought about stopping in Terminus Cave because we could pick up the TM for Shadow Ball, but I don't believe we're going to need it. Plus we have Phantom Force on our moveset for now. I engage in one final battle against Professor Sycamore with the fully evolved Kanto starters, and then face Shauna, Tierno, and Trevor. Trevor is usually the hardest of the 3, and he actually beats me in this battle. Dark Pulse fails to knock out his lead Raichu, which then hits me with Nuzzle, which will always paralyze. It then just goes for Thunderbolt until I'm knocked out, as Parahax Luck gets the better of me. In the next battle, I do make it past his lead Pokemon by going for Foul Play as opposed to Dark Pulse. He sends out Flogris next, and this thing sets up Misty Terrain immediately. And instead of going for Moonblast and possibly one-shotting me from there, it just goes for Confide. While I am able to knock it out over 4 turns, my special attack is now in the gutter. His final Pokemon is Aerodactyl, and Dark Pulse is able to 2-shot it. I'm just relieved that was a second try victory. And now it's time to take on our final gym leader, Wulfric. And thank God his Pokemon either have trash physical defense or trash special defense. I thought this battle could give Yveltal some trouble, but with Acrobatics being super effective, Cryogonal having trash physical defense, and Avalug's trash special defense, it was nearly a one-shot sweep across the board, and Oblivion Wing really comes in clutch. Before heading to Victory Road though, I'm going to do a little bit of backtracking. I'm going to head back to the Pokemon Village and get the TM for Psychic. I also head back to Corway Town and pick up the TM for Rock Slide. In Victory Road, I'm still avoiding all optional battles because Yveltal doesn't need the extra experience, and time-wise, it's actually very close to Xerneas right now, when I thought Xerneas would blow it out of the water. I even take my time getting by this spinner, if you want to call them that, which always seems to catch me in every run I do. I pick up one final rare candy, and now it's time for the last battle against Callum, which I really like the night sky in the background. I should do more runs at night in this game. Callum is yet to provide any type of challenge so far in this run, and the final battle doesn't go any differently. And although Meowstic has a super effective attack in Disarming Voice, it does pathetic damage, and I'm just convinced this Pokemon sucks. I'm not looking forward to a solo run with it. Greninja, on the other hand, actually puts up a fight with its super effective Ice Beam, and had it froze me, I probably would have lost to Callum. Altaria is next, and although it doesn't put up much of a fight, it does go for Confide, which lowers my special attack. This is more so just annoying because it means the battle's just going to drag out longer. And although we do get a quick battle from Flareon, who goes down to one foul play, Absol's going to take a while. And by a while, I mean isn't going to be a one-shot, because I have to chip away at it with Oblivion Wing. Before taking on the Victory Road Gauntlet, there is a waterfall I can head up that has the TM for Dragon Claw, but I opt to skip that. However, I want to touch on the battle against veteran Timio in the Victory Road Gauntlet real quick. While his Trevenant is no problem, it's the Gigalith that worries me. Because of Sturdy, I wouldn't one-shot it anyway, and its Stone Edge nearly knocks me out thanks to a critical hit. Thankfully, Gigalith is slow, and we move first, knocking it out the next turn. The remaining two members pose no challenge, and now it's time to take on the League. But the biggest question is which League member to face first. And I decided to start with Seabold first, and my moveset for facing him will be Dark Pulse, Oblivion Wing, Foul Play, and Focus Blast. I've got the leftovers on since I no longer have Acrobatics on my moveset. Dark Pulse can't one-shot Clawitzer, as it retaliates with Water Pulse. It doesn't confuse me, and we knock it out the next turn. Seabold then sends out Barbarical, which I have Focus Blast for. Thankfully, it misses its Stone Edge because I got flashbacks to Gigalith there. He's stuck in a healing loop, and he's just using full restores, so I can just go for Dark Pulse until we eventually two-shot this thing. His remaining Pokemon are Starmie and Gyarados. Starmie is one-shot by Dark Pulse, and Gyarados just spams Dragon Dance as I go for 2 Dark Pulses, critting the second one to knock it out. I decided the next League member I was going to face was going to be Drasna. Why did I decide to face her next? Because we're going to learn Dragon Rush in a level, but unfortunately, this battle starts rough. Psychic doesn't one-shot Dragalge, and its Thunderbolt paralyzes me. I do have the leftovers equipped, and I have Oblivion Wing for HP recovery, but if I get caught in Parahacks, then the battle is probably over. Since I no longer need Psychic, I decide to teach Dragon Rush over it. Against Altaria, I do get through Parahacks and hit Oblivion Wing to get back some HP. It hits me with a Moonblast as I KO it the next turn with Dragon Rush. Noivern is out next, and this thing can be scary. It just goes for Dragon Pulse as I hit it with Dragon Rush. Drasna then goes for a full restore, and I get some HP recovery with Oblivion Wing. Noivern then goes for Super Fang to nullify all of that as I'm fully paralyzed. It then hits me with Dragon Pulse, and I knock it out next turn with Oblivion Wing. All that's left is Druddigon. I go for the safe play and go for Oblivion Wing as it hits me with Dragon Tail, and I decide let's finish this off, and I hit it with a Dragon Rush for the win. 2 League members left, and I decide to take on Malva next. I've taught Rock Slide over Dragon Rush since we no longer have a need for it. Rock Slide barely misses the one-shot on Pyroar as it retaliates with Flamethrower, and then Malva gets stuck in a healing loop with it. Not wanting to risk missing, I just go for moves like Oblivion Wing and Foul Play to knock this thing out. She sends out Torkoal next, which has bad special defense but great physical defense. Dark Pulse barely misses the one-shot as Stone Edge does just under a quarter of my HP. I knock it out the next turn, and all she has left is Talonflame and Chandelure. She sends out Talonflame next, which goes down to 1 Stone Edge, and against Chandelure, I can just go for Dark Pulse, also knocking it out in 1 hit. All that's left is Wickstrom. He might be the hardest Elite Four member in any of these runs, if not the most annoying, because of his lead Pokemon, Klefki. And not only did I forget to teach Focus Blast for this battle, I forgot to use an Ether on Oblivion Wing. Knowing in the back of my mind I will have to face a Scizor later, I switch between Psychic and my other attacks, trying to hold off on using Oblivion Wing, but Dazzling Gleam makes it a little hard to do that. It does eventually hit me with Torment, which really sucks, but I've got to roll with the punches thanks to my own stupidity and negligence. We do eventually knock out Klefki with a decent amount of HP, and he sends out Probopass next. This thing is very defensive, although Dark Pulse does some big damage and gets it to flinch. Unfortunately for me, because of Torment, I can't go for the same attack 2 times in a row, and I'm trying to save at least 1 Oblivion Wing for Scizor. I do knock out Probopass with Psychic, and he sends out Aegislash next. I start by rotating between Psychic and Dark Pulse, and then eventually Dark Pulse and Foul Play. And really it was because I was trying to work around King Shield when I didn't have to. Torment has made this battle last a little longer than I've intended, along with Aegislash getting 2 King Shields in a row. Talk about luck. We level up to a nice level after finally knocking out Aegislash, and last is Scizor, and it's 1 Oblivion Wing and 1 Dark Pulse to finally end this battle. After what seems like forever, even though we're only 25 minutes into this video and nearing the end of it, we have finally made it to Champion Diantha. Yveltal has kept pace with Xerneas thus far. Let's see if it can beat its time. I'm rocking a moveset of Focus Blast, Dark Pulse, Psychic, and Oblivion Wing. Oblivion Wing one-shots Hawlucha, which is going to be a fun run when we do that. She sends out Tyrantrum next, which goes down in 1 Dark Pulse. That kind of surprised me. Next up is Aurorus. I don't want this thing setting up screens, and Focus Miss hits and one-shots it. Goodra is up next, and I rotate between Oblivion Wing and Dark Pulse, as she heals it with full restores when it gets down into red health. After a few rounds of back and forth with that, she's out of full restores and we can finally knock this thing out. She sends out Gourgeist next, which, come October, we're going to be running that in Trevenant. It goes down in 1 Oblivion Wing, and all that's left is Gardevoir. And I'm really curious how much a Moonblast would have done from Mega Gardevoir, but we'll never know, because Dark Pulse flinches it, and she just goes for a full restore, so 2 more Dark Pulses take it down. Yveltal clocks in with an in-game time of 6 hours and 1 minute, 2 minutes off Xerneas' time. And while the box art legendaries are 1-2 on my Kalos tier list, I'm curious how Zygarde would perform. That run won't be for some time, as I'd like to do some other legendaries and even some megas in these games, and perhaps even dip my toes into some Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. But for now, it's on to the next run, and really, I'm going to focus on some of these older runs that I've recorded but just haven't edited yet. Maybe I'll drop Seadra in Red and Blue next, I don't know. But as always, thank you for the continued support on the channel, and sorry this one took a little longer than expected to get out. I'm going to try to get out another video by the end of this month, which is why I thought about doing Seadra, and perhaps even a stream before month's end. Anyways, I'll see you in the next X and Y run when we run Pyroar. Again, let me know in the comments if I should do the male version or female version. I'll see you then. Take care, everybody.